Trustees regular meeting to order. The first item on our agenda, well, the roll call, all of the members here. And we all need to like place ahead of that. The first item on the agenda, of course, is public comments. First of all, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kate Blank. I'm a chairperson, and let's just go down and introduce ourselves all the way through the staff.
Judy Myers, the Hayden Lake area. Michelle Anderson.
Regina McCree. Michelle Beaver.
We only have 4 on at a time, so that's part of the problem.
Amy Rhoda, Library Director.
Lindsay Miller, SR Fuller, Assistant Library Director.
Janelle Sells, Business Manager.
Thank you, everyone. All right. I want to say my usual few comments before public comment. The public library is founded on the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. And that is exactly what we're doing all doing here today, is we're gathering together to freely speak. The 2 most important things I want us all to remember today are, first of all, to be respectful of one another, and secondly, to be civil to one another. We may not like what someone is saying, but we all need to listen without interruptions or distractions from the audience and let people have their say. So we're going to let people, we'd like to treat people as we would wish to be treated when we were standing up at the podium. For the speakers, please sign in, and I have the first list, and then there's another list over there if you wish to speak, and we will let everyone who wishes to speak do so. If you do not have to be a resident of this library district in order to speak. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. We have our timer, and the timer will go off when you'll be asked to finish up what you have to say. Let's see, when speaking, please tell us your name and what community you're from. That helps us since we serve we have a big district. And please, this is an opportunity to address the library or not the audience. Please keep your remarks to issues concerning the library district. And if speakers go to other topics, I will stop you and ask you to refocus or to finish speaking. As always, this is a time for the board to hear from the public. We will not be responding except to correct misinformation. And after the close of public comment, you're welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the board meeting. I think there are agendas on the table, is that correct? And we also have our agenda on our website, and we also have the minutes of our meetings on our website. So, with all of that said,
Actually, I'm not sure if I have a point. I'm not sure if it's a point of order, but I believe that if you correct misinformation, that you're infringing on someone's First Amendment rights.
that I wouldn't know, but I think I have seen it in other policies where we use correct information, and the person I would ask to do that would be simply, if somebody had something like the library closes at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and that wasn't correct, I would ask our director something on that order. So at this time, our first speaker on the list is Jim Powers.
Thank you very much. My name is Jim Powers. I'm in Post Falls. I've been a resident there for 10 years. I've been using the library since day 1. I want to thank everybody for the good work that they have done and appreciate the good quality of the libraries here. That's very important to me and to my family. And again, I would like to reiterate the library serves a community purpose that goes above and beyond providing books for entertainment. It is a source of information. It is a source of knowledge for people to come to learn about things. Sometimes they come to learn about things that they're not happy with or they're opposed to, but at least there is a source for them to go to where they can learn. It's very difficult in communities to have a good conversation if one is simply asserting things without knowledge or facts to back them up, regardless of which side of the equation you are representing. So I wish to again thank you for your good work, and I I would like to make sure that the library continues to maintain a broad range of materials that are not censored, and that nothing is withheld from the public, because the public decides what they want to, what issues they wish to pursue, and they want to understand what the arguments are pro and con for any of these topics. And a primary source for that is the library. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mary Ann Cotter.
The cops shot him because he was a Jew. Some German people think most Jewish men and boys are dangerous, even though they're not. Shooting him was part of a pattern. This pattern is being nice to German people and mean to Jews. Only the races were changed from excerpts of this book. If it were published with those racial references, there'd be an uproar, because it would be blatantly racist, as it is now. As importantly, the facts do not support this book's premise. It's based on erroneous perceptions and heightened emotions. And as Trustee Myers stated in the March board meeting, emotions have no IQ. So instead of erroneous perceptions and IQ-less emotions, let's briefly look at the facts. According to this July 2019 article, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, the world's most cited and comprehensive multidisciplinary scientific journal, entitled Officer Characteristics and Racial Disparities in Fatal Officer-Involved Shootings, we find no evidence of anti-Black or anti-Hispanic disparities across shootings, and white officers are not more likely to shoot minority civilians than non-white officers. According to statistics compiled by the Washington Post, the number of people shot to death by the police in the United States from 2017 to 2022 by race, the majority were white. According to this Black Harvard professor, Roland Fryer, in 2017, we didn't find racial differences in officer-involved shootings when studying 1,399 of them from 2000 to 2015. Quote, on the most extreme use of force, officer-involved shootings, we find no racial differences in either the raw data or when contextual factors are taken into account. According to Dan O'Donnell in April 2021, in a comprehensive analysis of officer-involved shootings in the U.S., entitled The Truth About Police Shootings in America, from 2015 to March 2021, 6,211 people were shot and killed by law enforcement officers. Quote, one of the most pernicious myths about police shootings is that police officers shoot unarmed Black men at an alarming rate, when in fact only 2% of those killed by an officer were unarmed and Black. So this entire book is an IQ-less, emotion-based falsehood, which uses lies to foster racial hate in the hearts and minds of young children, perpetuates the myth of victimhood for Black and brown people at the hands of the supposedly oppressive whites, promotes divisiveness, hatred, victimhood, shame, and oppression, and foments disdain for law enforcement. Given the book's complete factual inaccuracy and racial animus, the book violates the CLN's own selection criteria of authority and competency of presentation, adequate standards of quality, current usefulness, and lasting value. So voting to retain this book contradicts the policies you endorse, and Trustee Myers would surely discourage IQ-less decision-making. The citizens are watching.
Thank you.
And that is not
Our next person, can we pass those out at the end? Would you like to put them right here, and then we can go on to our next speaker? This, I never pronounce it correctly. Could you tell me one more time?
Yes, I will tell you. My name is Liz Worcester, like Worcestershire.
Oh, okay, all
So
right.
I pronounce it. Okay, so I live in Post Falls. Thank you for taking time to read the book in question. Something happened in our town and for listening to my concerns. For some, this may seem like a waste of time because you believe the book conforms to the library materials policy, so it cannot be removed. Well, I'm here to show that the book fails the policy because the authority and competency of the publisher is inadequate. I'll explain how this publisher has been ideologically captured and is heavily biased. Do police in the US shoot Black people simply because they're Black? There's no evidence for this other than the false narrative created in the media. Media includes not just television and the internet, but also book publishers. Something Happened in Our Town is published by Imagination Press, which is a children's book imprint of the APA, American Psychological Association. The press itself states on its website that it publishes books on social emotional learning, another term for critical race theory. Former president of the APA Society for Media and Technology, Mr. Christopher Ferguson, wrote in an article in December 21, declaring his resignation. He states, in May 2020, the APA's then president, Sandra Shulman, referred to the U.S. experiencing a, quote, racism pandemic. Shulman, speaking officially for the APA, went on to say the deaths of innocent Black people targeted specifically because of their race, often by police officers, are both deeply shocking and shockingly routine. Well, these are terrifying words. They're also at best debatable, but arguably simply untrue. According to the Washington Post database of police shootings of unarmed Black citizens are rare. There were 18 in the year 2020, the year Shulman was writing, and only 4 as of the end of the last week in 2020. Scholars Nick Porter and Briley, both Black, have pointed out more unarmed whites than Blacks are killed by police every year. However, most news agencies ignore white victims of police violence, creating an availability heuristic where the public assumes Black victims of police violence are exponentially more numerous than they are. White victims are underestimated. Proportionately, Black individuals are fatally shot by police more than whites, but proportionally, Black individuals are also overrepresented in the perpetration of violent crime and in violence towards police. It's also important to know that interracial violent crime incidents are 10 times higher for Black on white crime than white on Black. So I conclude that the APA and its Imagination Press are biased for cultural Marxist, social emotional learning ideologies. In other words, the APA is ideologically captured, and its Imagination Press cannot be trusted to provide truth, beauty, or goodness for our children, and the book should be removed.
All right, Laura, and then Bree.
Laura is unable to attend today, so she asked me to be her proxy. Here's her email of her testimonial that she sent me to read on her behalf. A refutation of the children's book, Something Happened in Our Town, presented as public comment to the Kootenai County Library Network by Mariana Cochran on behalf of Laura Van Voorhees. As a retired law enforcement officer especially, I am appalled by the lies and deception of this children's book, which targets vulnerable and suggestible 4 to 8-year-olds. It is obvious that the authors are putting forth a radical leftist agenda to suggest that law enforcement officers are dangerous and not to be trusted. What a completely horrible suggestion to imprint on a young mind. Law enforcement could very well save these children's lives someday. To suggest children should fear law enforcement endangers them beyond description. When a very young wife, Emma, asks, why did the police shoot that man? Her older teenage sister, Liz, replies, the cops shot him because he was Black. This conversation immediately leads to the topic of slavery, where, quote, slaves had to do whatever white people told them to do, unquote. This narrative perpetuates the leftist centuries-old victimization of all Black people. What a shameful disservice this is and has been to an entire race. Although Emma's mother tries to explain the shooting of the Black man was a mistake, quote, it was a mistake that's part of a pattern. This pattern is being nice to white people and mean to Black people. It's an unfair pattern, unquote. This false, purposely created false narrative has caused nothing but racial tension again after the civil rights legislation of the 1960s saw a true healing of these troubles. Meanwhile, in the Black household of a very young Josh, who asked his mother, can police go to jail? He wants to know if the white policeman who shot the Black man will go to jail. No discussion of innocent until proven guilty, just the tacit assumption that because a white man shot a Black man, he must have done so on purpose because whites are unfair and mean to all Black people. The purpose of this dialogue is to further fuel the flame of the current purposely created racial tensions in this country. What a completely despicable thing to target 4-year-olds with. I assert that there is no place for a book like this in our public libraries, especially in the children's section. The authors of this book are all child psychologists and social justice activists with deeply left-slanted political agendas. These are the very people who are creating racial divide in this country and causing children to hate and distrust the very people who are sworn to protect them. I implore you to remove this book from the shelves of all libraries in Kootenai County immediately. It is nothing but pure leftist propaganda and has no place here whatsoever. Thank you.
Senator Bush.
I'd like to address things in a more general sense. So I really like this handout, by the way. Didn't know a lot of that. In your freedom to read statement and the Library Bill of Rights, I sent you guys an email. I don't know how much the trustees get the email sent to the general email and the trustee email, but it talks about having balance. And I feel like the two books that you're looking at for review and request today, are there other books that balance it out? Because this is taxpayer funded and everybody's voice needs to be included. I don't feel like there's a lot of balance. And to me, I'm not asking you to remove those from the library, but why can't we put them in the general section? If you want to go look them up in the general section by author and subject matter, why do they need to be in the kids section? Is my biggest concern there. And I would have you look, I think with your Library Bill of Rights, and I forget which one it is it number 3? That you guys are not listening to the people. If you don't like the majority of the comments today, that doesn't make us any less relevant. I've noticed, like with yesterday, and there was a press conference, and with a lot of public entities, like NIC and board meetings, oh, well, we'll just ignore the opinions we don't like. We all have a valid opinion, and you need to consider it even if you don't like it. Most of you do a great job of keeping your face straight. There's one or two of you that I know can't stand most of us. Please try to do a better job. Notice I'm not on the board because I would not be able to hide my expressions. If I was on a public board, you would see my disdain or pleasure on my face. So please consider moving it out of the children's section. Whether it's legal or not, the morally right thing to do is to protect the innocence of our children. Thank you.
I am going to answer one thing, and that is every letter that's sent to the email that is sent to the general and is addressed to the board is sent to the board. I'll work with it. Character clerk.
Right, good afternoon. I'm going to read a little bit of an article here put out by the Idaho Freedom Foundation, which states lawmakers recently cut nearly $4 million from the Idaho Commission for Libraries because it was providing sexually explicit material for K-12 schools. This effort is a meaningful step toward greater accountability in public institutions. I think maybe you could look at that as a little bit of a vote of no confidence, that you're kind of on, you're being noticed at a very high level right now. You know, maybe grant money can come in through other federal subsidies that I wouldn't like, but just consider that, please. I'm also going to read from a little graphic I have here, basically under the category of my concern for the kind of books we have in the children's library. This is a pedophilia agenda. Number 1, stock libraries with pedophilia grooming books aimed at kids. Number 2, promote drag queen story time in libraries. Number 3, promote gender fluidity to children. Number 4, introduce porn literacy into schools. Number 5, clear the curriculum by exposing children to adult LGBTQ ideology. And I know there was, I don't know what it was called exactly, a big event in Portland a couple weeks ago for librarians, and it was clearing the curriculum, I guess, clearing the libraries. Number 6, introduce irreversible sex change operations for children. There's a lot of people now, as adults, speaking out against the horrors of this. It's something they cannot change. Number 7, promote mixed bathrooms in schools. Number 8, introduce soft sentences for pedophilias. I guess we just had a Supreme Court justice nominated who has been soft on pedophilia crimes. Number 9, push the the push to lower the age of consent, and number 10, dismiss and demonize concerned parents who dare to speak out. Okay. This leads me to another thought in regards to the bookmobile. I'm just wondering, you know, that bookmobile goes to, is that in operation right now? The bookmobile is currently being used, okay. So it goes to schools, and I'm guessing of all those kids that come out of their classrooms into that bookmobile, do they all have library cards? Just something to think about, you know. Have parents in those schools given permission for those children to go in there? Because there's a lot of content I'm guessing parents wouldn't like. Of another concern to me is the ALA. I've looked at the Bill of Rights. I don't see how that restrains a library board from doing anything. It's a permission slip for anything, is how I looked at that. There's nothing that kind of comes down on what are we putting in the library for people under 18. Also, there's a new president that was just elected. I believe her name is Emily Dubinsky, and she's very Marxist. I don't see how that is really in line with the values of North Idaho. Your time is up. Okay, so please consider the ideologies that are being promoted in the library right now, and the harm that it's doing to our culture and our future children.
Anita, I am gonna juice it. Okay.
Anita Dixon, I'm from Raptor. As I look around the board members in the audience here, I can see that most of us grew up, and I'm going to say that we all kind of think that we're pretty, we accept people the way they are, and we didn't have any of these books in our growing up years that would kind of point us towards these things, towards, either LGBT or racism or anything like that. And I think we all figure that we grew up to be pretty good people, and we're tolerant. I guess that's the word that I want to say. My concern is so many of the books that we have for kids nowadays are blanketed in beautiful graphics and nice colorful stuff and pretty covers and all that kind of stuff. And kids don't know how to discern anything from that. They don't know, and parents, when they see that and they figure it's in the kids section, that's going to be a fine book for their kids. So many of these books have things that parents perhaps, just like a lot of people don't want kids to be exposed to certain religious beliefs, certain scientific beliefs, or certain beliefs in general. Some parents don't want their kids exposed to that without their knowledge. And books that are flowery actually look like that. And so parents think they're getting something safe for their kids. And they're not necessarily, and it's a parent's job to make sure that we protect the, it's something that might be disturbing to children, and they won't be able to address it because they may not know that. And parents don't look and see what's actually in books, unfortunately. I know that these books are going to end up in the library, but I'm thinking that what needs to happen, and I will agree with the gentleman that said, to put them in a collection. Do you remember, a lot of you remember video stores where we had the adult videos were put in a separate room. We have a collection of autobiographies. We have a collection of science books. So a collection of, I'm going to say, current, they're not even current events, I don't know what you would call them, but someplace where the kids need to have an adult with them to browse through these books. So not single kids, and so that they're available to everybody, but that parents know what their kids are getting so that they know how best to protect their kids, how to start a conversation with their kids. Because we all know that a lot of times kids don't want to have conversations with them. But if a parent is with them, then they can read the book together or whatever the thing is, whatever the deal is. But I had a prepared thing and it crashed on me, but our kids are so precious to us, and this is almost like a grooming thing, and if we do it incrementally, which I believe is happening, so little by little, we can start adding a little bit more push to a bad direction, be it pedophilia. We've already seen that with, and sorry, but anyway, I think there needs to be just a special place to collect these and then have parents part of it.
Go on the microphone.
haven't been able to hear anything because of my hearing difficulties and the acoustics in the room here. But I think it's sad that there's so many questionable books in the library. And I think it's disappointing to me that the library puts things out there that kids, parents would not want them to see about alternative lifestyles and questioning their sexuality. Am I a boy or a girl? This kind of thing. I don't think that's what the library should be for. And I think that, I just remembering in the early days when we had video cassette recorders and you'd go and rent movies. They had the dirty movies in a room behind the curtain. But now the library has all this stuff out where the kids can just stumble across it. And I think that it's sad what the American Library Association has done to our libraries.
Hello, I'm Kyle Weems. I'm from Post Falls, and I've been working at the Post Falls Library for 30 years now. There's a lot of faces that I recognize, and there's quite a bit that I don't. As a librarian, I thoroughly enjoy classics such as The Scarlet Letter, To Kill a Mockingbird, Uncle Tom's Cabin, Pride and Prejudice, and my favorite classic, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I'd like to quote another one of my favorite classic novels for you. Colored people don't like Little Black Sambo. Burn it. White people don't feel good about Uncle Tom's Cabin. Burn it. Someone's reading a book on tobacco and the cancer of the lungs. The cigarette people are weeping. Burn it. The conservatives don't like LGBT. Burn it. For most of you, that is period 451, except for the conservative part. It's mine. A little nervous. I believe it is not only important for our youth to read these books, but also as a reminder to adults of why it is important to read them. I think most people get so lost in their own narrative, they lose sight of things. It starts with one book, and then turns into many. For example, these classic books such as The Picture of Dorian Gray, The Importance of Being Earnest, and the many works of Oscar Wilde will be discarded. Why, you might ask? Oscar Wilde was a gay man in the 1800s and died due to his impure crimes. It doesn't stop there. There will also be other books suggested for this censorship. Our founding father, Benjamin Franklin, will be censored due to his multiple writings of his multiple sexual affairs out of wedlock. Surely we cannot have our children read such impure sexual morale. Also, the works of Albert Einstein, who in his second marriage married his second cousin, which hopefully we can all agree is a little weird. This sort of censorship, or any sort of censorship, is wrong. I find the censorship of our books not only a harm to our youth, our community, but our rights as American citizens. To enact this censorship is to do an act of fascism. Many people forget the horrors of Nazi Germany and the hordes of books burned. For those of many who may not know, they didn't just burn Jewish books, they burned all books not in favor of Nazi Germany, and that includes LGBT books. So, I fear the community I've grown to love and embrace has forgotten such terrible acts, and history will repeat itself. I'm not here to convince you to be pro-LGBT. I'm here to beg you to realize the error of this censorship. For those of you who still oppose me, I offer an opportunity to, instead of taking down a program or books that you disagree with, to take the time to work with your libraries and build a community that you love and others would too. And honestly, I feel disrespected as an employee of the library that you want to take out books about my family and the life I experience. No matter what political side you're on, there should be books for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert C.
Thank you, Board, for convening.
Hang on one sec. Let's let this gentleman get his phone.
Okay.
All right.
Does everyone turn their phone on? I just want to thank the Board for convening this today, and I wanted to come share my concerns about what I see as the Board's fiduciary duty to the community, which would be not to censor, not for censoring any books in any way, but I am for I see the board, you're the stopgap for any books that might harm, especially vulnerable young children. We know that you are the bulwark that protects them. And therefore, being that we're all a community together, we all take a part in this. And the two books in question I have, was a concern about is that it more promotes than educates. And I think that's what books are about. They're about educating us all, not promoting anything. And these two books are promoting, if you get caught up in the cultural aspect of today, if they're promoting an ideology. And I don't think that's what books are for. Books are for educating, not promoting. So I want just to keep that in mind. Any book that comes in front of you for any kind of reconciliation or what some would call censorship, there are certain things. If I were to hold up a pornographic picture here, I don't think anyone would appreciate it. And so just keep that in mind, not to put forward things to, especially the vulnerable children in our communities, things that would promote an ideology or a lifestyle, but keep in mind that the books are to educate. That's all it's for. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Allen.
Hi, my name is Debbie Allen. I'm from Raptor, and we raised 3 children and 21 foster children, and I have 5 grandchildren. And I'm not prepared for anything. I just found out about this. But when I read it, I was alarmed, and I've been increasingly alarmed at the way things are going for children. I wasn't sure how I was going to present this, but I started remembering our years as foster children, which was 21 years. We took children in from 9 years old, and we kept them until they wanted to leave. Some left at 18 and some 20. Anyway, I agree with all the comments that were made about the book, Something Happened in Our Town. And I don't have too much more to add to that. I just agree with that. The book, George, is the one that really alarmed me. And I agree with the man that just talked about it, promoting, not educating, but promoting a certain lifestyle. At one point, while we were raising our foster children, we worked for Families First, and we had to go to ongoing training. And so I think we got several college degrees just going to that. And one of the things that they stressed was we were to protect our children, guard them from any kind of sexual activity at all. We were not meant to promote anything along those lines, and we didn't. And so at one point we had a boy that had lived with us for a few years, and he went to a social worker and said that he wanted to practice his homosexuality. They came to us and they said that we needed to allow him to practice his homosexuality in our home. And if we didn't allow that they would take our license away from us. And we were just very alarmed. We couldn't understand, where did this come from? So they gave us 24 hours to figure out what we were going to do. And the next day we met with them and we told them, you know, if we allowed any of the other kids to practice their sexuality, heterosexuality, you would take our license away from us. And yet you're expecting us to allow this with a homosexual boy. We found out later when he left our home at 18 that he had been molesting several of the boys in our home. And so I'm thinking, you know, for kids, the other thing we learned was that children's minds are not fully developed until they're in their 20s. They don't have the ability to critically think through different aspects. And so kids need to be protected.
Thank you. The next person on the list, I can't read, is it Vixen? I can't read the name.
Viper?
It could be that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm incredibly left-handed. I'm Viper, I'm the president of Panhandle Patriots RC, and we've been in the business a long time of actually looking out for kids. We stand behind the Constitution 100%. We would not do anything that would diminish or violate anybody's First Amendment. There's a big difference between like freedom of speech and as being adults, children can't make up their own mind in rational thinking. That's why we'll let them drink alcohol and drive automobiles and buy cigarettes. So it's up to us as adults to look out for the children. One of the sad things that I see right here, right now, some of the parents that would be most concerned, both parents are probably working. The majority of us that are sitting in here right now do not have young children to be concerned with. So therefore, with Panhandle Patriots, we'll stand up and be the proxy and let you know the sentiment of what a lot of these parents would say. It's come to our attention, there's 348 different books that are highly questionable, and some of them, First Amendment and pornography or grooming are two different things. We have nothing against anybody who is gay or whatever. We don't care if you choose to identify as a potato and want to fall in love with that fence post. We do not care. When it comes to children, anybody, whether it be gay, straight, white, black, whatever, children first. Now, what we plan on doing is Panhandle Patriots RC, since a lot of those parents can't be here and they're working, they don't know what's going on. We're going to be picking up a lot of these different titles and these books and stuff. We're going to be going through that. We're going to be bringing this to the people that actually would make a difference to the parents. So let's all think of kids first. There is no reason why, let's say sex, why is sex going to be introduced into any children from, a lot of this is going on from grade, from kindergarten through grade 3. Keep the gay sex out, keep the straight sex out, don't keep that out. There's a reason why, you wouldn't find this stuff, some of this that goes on in these books there. Like I said, we're going to be acquiring those, we're going to be showing everybody. You put that on Pornhub or a place like that, they would shut them down and child pornography. So with that being said, there's going to be a lot to be seen around here. And everybody, we as adults, y'all up there, y'all out here, you better stand up and protect the kids. Kids first. You want to promote harmful stuff to children, we will deal with that. We prefer not to. But all of us together as adults, straight, white, gay, whatever, trans, whatever, let's all stand together to protect kids. We will not tolerate harmful stuff kids in Idaho. Better.
Sherry Weeds.
Okay, so I'm a little nervous. I am a stay-at-home mom, and I'm a homeschool mom. I homeschooled my kids for 7 years. Not because of the schools being bad, I just didn't care for the Common Core curriculum. But I've recently been hearing a lot about what's been going on in the library, obviously because my daughter works there, and House Bill 666. So I don't know how you guys read the Fort Wayne Press, but it got mentioned the other day by Carrie Shy. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce their names, but what I found interesting was that House Bill 666 says librarians could spend up to a year in jail if they allow minors to check out study materials. Isn't that the job of parents? Isn't that the parents' job to make sure that the books are acceptable for their children? Not the librarians to decide what's appropriate for kids. Everyone's always asked me when I started homeschooling, well, Sherry, what do I need to do? And I always tell them, you need to buy a box of crayons and get a library card. And take your kid to the library so they can learn about everything, whether it's LGBTQ, Hitler, whatever. They have a right to learn that because of the First Amendment. And so, anyway, I just want to thank the library for what you do. I'm not familiar with the book that you guys are talking about, so let me just state that right off the bat. But I am familiar with the library and the good things that they do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. President Baxter.
I'd like to thank you for your service to the community. Obviously, you put a lot of time and effort into this. But I would like to capitalize service to our community. You are not here to appease ideology, fringe groups, things like that. You're here to serve this community, this Porter Lane and greater area. And I wish you would, because this community has views on these things, and I think they're pretty evident. Freedom of speech, as you mentioned, I love freedom of speech, but not when speech is used to harm our children. And I'm sorry, no difference than a loaded gun sitting in my home with children around, knives. Those are dangerous. I keep them away from children. I was going to ask you, Ms. Robinson, you made a statement last year that you wanted to keep these questionable books away from children. I'm not asking you to answer that because it sounds like it hasn't taken place. They are readily available. And again, back to the analogy of weapons. You don't put dangerous things in the hands of kids because we love them, we protect them, that's our job. I'm sorry, that is your job to protect them. So to make things so obviously there that can hurt and harm, maybe that's my heart, but that's just wrong. I think it's wrong. But I would like to take a second just to read you one simple thing. Last time I stood in front of a group, had a piece of paper like this, and I couldn't read it, so bear with me. See what I did? Okay, 30 seconds, I guess. All right, this is from the Word of God. Okay, you can put whatever print you want to put into that. Christ was brought a child, and he said, whoever receives and welcomes one child like this in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble and to sin, it would be better for him or her to have a milestone hung around his neck and drowned into the sea. That is a pretty important statement from our Creator God, whether you believe it or not, but I would give some credence to it. Thank you.
Roger Dunham, or Durham?
Also, I just echo the statements that I think that kids should be protected, and it's the duty of parents to protect them. I've been disappointed in the subject in terms of trying to get the Epic Times in the library for over a year, and you have the New York Times and the New York Post, and when you research it further, the fact checkers that they gave the New York Times 100%, and the same fact checkers that gave the Washington Post 100%, they gave the Epic Times 49.5%, just in terms of general. If you're going to present the whole realm, all the sides, there's a number of us personally that feel left out because we're not part of the equation because it isn't available. And there's free apps given to young people through the fact checker. It's called the News Guard and Health Guard. They're very much supported by Big Pharma to the tune of $400 million. So it seems they might be biased, and I feel that on all levels that if we're going to present all sides of things, then the Epic Times should be along to buy the American Essence magazine, put out by Epic Times, celebrates America. And I will donate it to the Athol Library. And so far I've been rejected in terms of being able to do that. I think if you want to donate books, you should be able to donate it to the library, for $100, whatever, it's well worth it, because it celebrates America instead of causing division, which these books obviously do in all different stages. So anyway, thank you.
Or is it Terry? Oh, okay.
I just heard about this a couple days ago, but I've been here for 20 years. I've raised 6 kids. I'm now raising 2 grandkids. You know, I've heard a lot of people talk about, you know, percentages and things that are going on. But I haven't, you know, heard people talk about specific kids who have been harmed by these books. I just feel like if we continue down this path of censorship, we're not going to be 50th in the nation in education. We're going to be, what, 53? Like the lady said, where does it stop? You know, I don't believe in, you know, guns that should be held by military people. But yet, you don't hear me talking about banning those books that teach about it. I'm sure you can probably go to the library and read up on those. So, you know, I just feel like, where does it stop? Thanks.
Thank you. Mary Sabota.
Mary Swoboda Raptor. I'm assuming everyone knows who Corrie ten Boom is. Corrie ten Boom was riding on a train with her dad, and she had the bright idea to ask him, what is a sex sin? And rather than answer her, he handed her his suitcase, and he said, would you carry this off the train for me? And she did. She picked it up, she struggled, and finally she said, it's too heavy. I can't carry it. And he said that the some knowledge is too heavy for children. And he said, that's why I am here, to carry the load for you, and you must trust me. We are asking our children to carry loads that are way too heavy for them. They should not be forced as children to see and feel the world through the lens of adults. Innocence is worth protecting and worth fighting for. We need to do our part as parents and caregivers to carry certain things for them until they are old enough to bear the load. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Nina Beasley. I'm a wife and mother of 5 children. I'm a resident of Raptor. And it's come to my attention from Mr. Roger Durham that he requested to have the magazine American Essence to be provided in the library, and even said that he would pay for it. The following is from the letter the Community Library Network sent him. Lindsay, Carrie, and I have reviewed the American Essence magazine that you sent from Roger Dunham. It does not quite meet our criteria for inclusion in our magazine collection, has not been professionally reviewed, and not available through our library magazine vendors. So we would not recommend it for Athol or any other libraries. But you'll recommend George by Alex Gino for the children's section of the library. Here are some quotes from his book. Hiding your search history from your mom, dirty magazines, and all boys are dirty. I want to know what pedophile is putting these books on the shelves to groom our children. In our Idaho Constitution, it sets a moral standard. For example, Article 1, Declaration of Rights, Section 4, it states, in regards to religious liberty, the liberty of conscience hereby secured shall not be construed to excuse acts of licentiousness or justify polygamous or other pernicious practices inconsistent with morality or the peace or safety of the state, nor to permit any person, organization, or association to directly or indirectly aid or abet, counsel, or advise any person to commit the crime of bigamy or polygamy or any other crime. Clearly, you are working in the wrong state. If you want that bill, you can move to Washington, Oregon, or California. Our Constitution and our state statutes repeatedly promote virtue, morality, and the purity of the home. The First Amendment was not drafted by our framers today to provide blanket protection for obscenity or indecent material to children. Associations like the American Library Association, the National Educational Association, or any other association does not override and are not above Idaho state law. The library claims it supports the American Library Association Bill of Rights to provide materials and information presenting all points of view on current and historical issues. No, it doesn't. Mr. Roger Dunham received another letter denying him the request to have the Epic Times in the library, stating it didn't meet their criteria. But again, the book George does. I ask that you either remove these books from our children's section of the library or remove yourselves from our library.
Yeah.
That's the last of our speakers. As I said before, we're moving on to our regular board meeting. Everybody's welcome to stay and listen. But the public doesn't interact with our board. So, next item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is talking about board procedures. And all right. I don't know that I have anything to say about the library. I think we received a couple of letters, emails commenting on our board behavior, which we all looked at, and all saw. We are going to continue to do a rotation, and this we will start our discussions with Shelley, because I started with the three and went to Meyer, and then it's us. So when we have discussion time, we'll start with you, and then we'll get on to Regina, and then that discussion. Okay.
So in my reading of Robert's Rules of Order, which is parliamentary procedures, it says that we are bylaws that we use right to. It's not supposed to go by rotation, it's supposed to be by whoever is ready. I think this is by rotation because we end up asking several people to have something to say, and then they take a couple minutes to tell us and have to say it to drag their work out.
Everybody is, it's also requested that everybody speak once before someone speaks twice. And so that was a way to keep it in order, and the board can choose whether they'd like to do something different. Because I'm going to talk about the parliamentary procedure. And at the end of that, we'll make a decision whether we want to do rotation or we want to do something else. I think it's pretty efficient to go make sure that everybody speaks once and gets a chance to speak, and then if it comes around again, and he's done it, and somebody wants to speak again, they can. So it keeps it very orderly. The point is that to be as fair as possible. But anyway, we did have a snafu last time concerning parliamentary procedure, and so what I did was spend a considerable amount of time this month looking into parliamentary procedure. One of the things I know a gentleman who is a retired college professor. I think it either Lewis Clark, but he also taught at Northern Arizona University. he also taught at university level parliamentary, so he is an excellent resource. And I spent a considerable time talking to him just about general things concerning parliamentary procedure. So parliamentary procedure, I'm just going to talk in general for a few minutes about it. It's a set of tools, and I didn't realize that we've agreed to use. And Michelle is right, we stated in our bylaws that, you know, we will use Robert's Rules of Order for small boards. But what I want to go back and say is Robert's Rules of Order, they're tools. They are not laws. And I thought they were laws. And I thought it was like, if we don't do them right, oh my gosh, you know, something's going to be terrible. That's not true. It's a set of tools that we have agreed to use in our meeting. Robert's Rules, I was also not understanding Robert's Rules of Order for small boards. And what I came to understand, I thought maybe there was a separate book for small boards or something like that, but I came to understand that all of Robert's Rules of Order apply to us as a small board, but we can, because we've stated it, there are a few rules that are relaxed for small boards. For example, we don't have a second. That doesn't mean that we have to use those rules. What it means is that we can. And I have, we can talk more about those. But Robert's Rules of Order are meant to make meetings more efficient, not more complicated. And so they're tools, and they're not tools that we use every time. The basic principles for Robert's Rules of Order that the decisions are made by a majority vote, but at the same time, the minority is protected by making sure that they are always allowed a voice. And so that's one of the reasons for this very straight rotation, is that it makes sure that everyone has a voice. And even if they don't have something to say, they are acknowledged for that. And so at our last meeting, we had a confrontation. We hit a motion was made that nobody in the room actually knew how to use. And we didn't know what to do. We ended up doing the right thing, making a choice not to use it. There are some solutions to that should we come up against it again. We could have our attorney come to every board meeting and act as a parliamentarian. That would cost us $200 an hour. We could hire a parliamentarian, or perhaps get someone to volunteer on certain, if we could do that. Amy made a very good observation, which was, we're all librarians, and looking up information is our job. So that would require stopping, and we can certainly do that. And I purchased some books. And the last one was, Vanessa's comment was, if we don't know how to use it, we shouldn't use it at this meeting. And I thought, we have to, but that's actually a choice that we can make as a board. So Robert's Rules of Order, like I said, it's not absolutely, we're not going to be taken to jail if we don't use them correctly. I bought 3 books. This is the regular one that very revised. Okay, I didn't look much at this one. I just got this one yesterday. This looks really good. Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised in brief. And so if we need to look something up, we can look it up quickly. And then I also got this was recommended by Mr. Hunt, and this is Robert's Rules of Order for Dummies, which is, I don't know if you guys have ever read any of the dummies books, but they're good. And he suggested that one. So we do have stuff on hand. We also have over there. If we do that, we haven't ever had to use particularly complicated rules in the past. If we are moving in that direction, we may have to add time in order to do that. Or we can choose not to. I just wanted to say that. Now, Rochelle is suggesting that we don't use the rotation that I put into place. What are your brothers? You've already expressed your opinion.
Are we going this way?
Sure, we'll just go that way.
Well, I mean, I think it's
takes some getting used to, particularly when you're the one that's up first and you weren't quite ready to be up first. But I think that it's useful and it's a good way to manage the meetings. I don't have a problem.
I also feel that way. I think it does manage things better. It does take getting used to, but each time we do it, it becomes a little easier. And so I would suggest that we keep doing it.
I haven't been a fan of it yet. I know you guys just said it takes getting used to. I haven't gotten used to it. I feel like when one person's bringing up or talking about a subject, and I have counter, lack of better terms, I can't get that out. And then by the time it comes around, it's not really there anymore. So that could just be my problem. But I have passed on more than if it was the other way, I would have said something. But since my time came like 3 people later, it was hard for me to, I don't know, get out what I was gonna say.
I'm okay trying the rotation, if you go all the way and it doesn't work, we need to stop and do something that's okay for maybe a particular topic, or it's more interactive, for flexibility. But I think, and I know the feeling of, guys, do I know what I want to say yet? Does it happen? And so I'll have to read my next rotation, and I'll probably have to write down my ideas, because I can't always remember. But I'm okay with rotation.
Oh, okay, all right. So, can we keep with the rotation again today? And otherwise, what we I'm not really certain what I want to do.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay.
Yes, you know.
Yeah.
No, what I'm trying to do is make it efficient.
Well, I think that it's, you know, you have something to say, if you want to say it, right then, and you don't. I think it's better when we're inspired to speak, we're able to speak then. And in the last couple of meetings, there have been times when one person said something, and someone else wanted to respond, and they couldn't because it wasn't their turn yet. By the time it came to their turn, that's not really where the conversation was going anymore. They didn't quite remember what the other person was talking about, and it just seems like a lot of things get lost.
One of the things in my videos on parliamentary procedure that came up over and over again very clearly is that everyone gets a chance to speak before everybody speaks again. And so we don't have to do rotation, but the same thing may happen because everybody gets a chance to speak once, and then we go around for a second round. So that's kind of why the rotation got put in place in the first place. That's just over and over again I came across that. So we just, all right. The majority of the board at this point in time is going with rotation, so we're going to continue with rotation. We can continue the discussion about this and, look into it a little more, but let's do it with rotations for today. So the next item on the agenda is the Athol Library Annual Report with Jill.
Hi, everyone. How do you manage
Does she have can we give her this one? We can't take it at all.
There it is. Yeah.
It's gonna. You want the podium? Is it better? Do you want the podium? Yeah, let me the podium.
You're all right.
How's this? Perfect. Yes. I was hoping you all would stay after the public comment session to hear and see what all the fun things we do at our library. So thank you for staying. Everyone see okay?
Until would you like to introduce yourself? Maybe not all.
Okay. My name's Jill Roche. I'm the manager at the Athol Library, and I've been there almost 7 years. And before that, I was at the Post Falls Library. My education and background is in horticulture and botany and landscape architecture. But this is the best job I've ever had. Working in landscape design and working is a lot of stress. Anyway, so I love my job here, and we have a great crew, which you'll see their photos on our presentation here. Yeah, so that's an intro, and I'll just get started. So every year we've been doing an annual board report for the board until COVID, and then we had they had the Zoom meeting, so the individual libraries were not a part of the board meetings. So this is the first one back in Athol, and it's great to have the board here and to have the public here to see what we all do. Again, I'm glad that we're getting past the times of COVID and it's starting to feel more normal. These goals, being that we haven't done this since 2019, these goals go back from 2019, and they were to continue to find ways to involve teens in our library activities, be better at responding to our Facebook comments and questions, promote our e-resources and library offerings more on Facebook, find more ways to improve or involve our library in the community. And we didn't do much of these at all. So we were closed, we had curbside service, and so all those goals are now passed on to this coming year. Or not all of them, but some of them. And some of those goals, these are goals always pretty much in our library, that we continue working on weeding, which means going through our collection and books that have not checked out for an amount of time are then pulled because we continually get new materials and to keep our collection current. So we weed our library often, or not often, like every 3 years or so, to make room for the new books. And so we have continued to do that, and that increases our shelf space and makes it easier for our members to browse. We continue to acquire new books and to keep our collection, and a lot of our collection is based on what is popular at our location for our members, which includes a lot of gardening books and sustainability, and so we like to keep books that our members enjoy. And then we continue improving the library experience with visual merchandising. And we ordered, they're called shelf talkers, and these are customized to assist members in how to find their holds easier and by topic for our kids in nonfiction, so they can find books on the topics they like rather than like the Dewey Decimal System. And these are just images of those, like our hold shelf. It's by alphabet, and people come and look for their holds based on the last name, alphabetically on their last name. And it's been, the systems we've had in the past have been a real pain, and the shelf talkers have worked really well. They slide on the shelves. Anyway, and the juvenile nonfiction shelf topics are trees like dinosaurs and drawing and photography, all these different topics. And that has really helped our kids find these books faster. It's just, they really like seeing that way of searching. So these are our library statistics, March 21 to March 22. I was so happy to see these statistics because it was, it shows that we're getting back to normal. And it's starting to feel like we are there, and it's more people, and it's busy, and we have our programs. So these statistics are all positive, as you can see, and quite a bit more percentages of people coming back. We have a lot of new people, as we all know, that live in this area. A lot of new people, and it's amazing all the new families that we get. Every week we get new people signing up for library cards. So these points are based on our strategic plan, the library strategic plan, and provide accessible, inviting, safe, and welcoming spaces to think, meet, work, and create. And part of that is improving library spaces, furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. And we're really proud of this project. We have an open ceiling in the library, and it was just white, and we just started thinking years ago it would be cool to put something up there, so we got a grant from the Friends to purchase the kites. And we put those up there, and then we keep looking at it and thought, oh, it'd be neat if it looked like the sky up there, so we got a grant from that Library Foundation, and it was painted to look like the sky. And it's interesting that when people walk in, it's not the adults that see it, it's the kids. You know, adults walk in and they just walk over to the desk or something, and a kid will walk in and they'll, oh, wow. So it's fun. We like it. Champion staff excellence and satisfaction. So we recognize staff for innovation, creativity, and continuous improvement. We have, and have had this in place for years, the Golden Book Award, and it goes to, we try to do it for a librarian once a month, or every month. So in COVID, we all got it. And we thought we were the best, and now we all deserve the Golden Book Award. So, and these are my staff. Of course, each one of them has received a Golden Book Award because they all do an amazing job. Bethany's our kids librarian. Sydney was a temporary employee while we were short-staffed for several months. Crystal is currently on board. Well, all Janet, Gwen, we're all there except Sydney now. And our newest member is Grace. And she came on board not too long ago, and we're just very happy to have her. She's young and good energy and good ideas, and she's also our adult programmer. And then we have volunteers. Bella here has been volunteering for probably 17 years, and she cleans, and she's the best cleaner anyone's ever seen. She gets the corners. Anyway, she comes every Thursday when something comes up. And then Marilyn has been coming for about the last 3 years, and she comes in and dusts shelves and cleans and straightens things up and stuff. And they're reliable, and they just keep showing up every week. We love them. So we offer a variety of community gathering and learning opportunities for families. We did some fun things. This was 2 summers ago. We couldn't have any in-person programs, so we partnered with Super One and PFC,
UNFCU?
Yes, partnered with them. They're doing in the Athol community. And we had a family movie night, and we had that big blow-up screen, and Randy from the manager of Super One gave us $400, which covered the rights to show that movie. And PSP P1 FC gave us the money for all the popcorn. And it was fun. It was a cool thing, and we keep getting asked if we're going to do that again. And then we had Janet and Miss Bethany at the Super One trunk or treat, and they ran out of candy and books. It was a big deal. And then we had a dog pageant show or a dog walk. All the libraries did. And we have our library dog named Sparky, who was in the dog pageant. And then engage community members in innovative educational and fun experiences. And a big deal of our library and all our libraries is to help prepare preschool and school-age members to be enthusiastic learners and readers. So during COVID, Bethany did her story time and crafts outdoors on the side of our building. And that worked out pretty well. We had good turnout and a lot of fun, and usually lucked out with the weather. And then we're back in the library again, and Bethany does story time. She does a music and movement class here every Monday, and in the afternoon, Imagination Explorers, and a lot more other programs, a lot of other programs. We have a partnership with Farragut Park, and we've been doing summer programs at Farragut where they can take hikes in the ranges there. Are very active in that and give talks, and it's a great partnership, and that's new to us. Here, Karen, our youth services manager, sent me these statistics. And so I'm looking at them all, and then I took all this time coming up with the percentages and calculating and everything, and then I looked at this and I thought, I don't know what to say about that. Because, you know, this was from 2020 to 21, so some of we weren't doing in-person programs, but we do a lot of outreach, and thereby, of course, ages, and some of the outreach programs were up, some were down, some of the attendance was way up, and some were down, so I just have to say, it varies, and you never really know, but there are a lot of positives on there too, so that's good. Offer a variety of community gathering and learning opportunities for adults. We had to go virtual since we couldn't do any in-person programs, and so Janet did a virtual program on embroidery, and Debbie did a Knitting 101 program, and these are on the library YouTube page and we're on our Facebook pages. And then I did, with Judy's help, Judy did the filming and the editing. We started a cooking show called Now You're Cooking, and it was a lot of fun. And then I did a starting seed, since my background's in horticulture and all that. Starting seeds and flower arranging. Those were fun. And then we did a lot of grab and go kits for adults, so we had them setting out on the shelf, and adults could take them and take them home and make these. So we had all these different fun crafts, and they were popular for members to take home and share with their family. We're back in the house now. We welcome back our book club, and we had winter reading bingo recently. Offer a variety of community gathering and learning opportunities. we were in the Athol Days Parade with the bookmobile. And I don't know if many of you were at that parade that day. It was like 90 degrees and smoky and not very pleasant, but it was fun. And then we were part of the first Athol's Christmas festival and tree lighting, and that was 4 years ago. And we didn't get to do it the previous 2 years, but we got to do it back here this December. And Bethany and I woman the booth at the festival, and we had a lot of books and crafts and our big sign out. That was fun. And then Gary Patterson with the Panhandle Health District had received a grant to paint games at qualified locations and communities. And we contacted him and said we would love to have, he showed us what he had available, and we chose the butterfly hopscotch game, and it's out permanently on our sidewalk in front of the library. And it's popular. So our goals for 2022, 2023 are more community engagement. We're going to join the Bayview Chamber of Commerce. We have a lot of members from Carrollwood, Bayview, all over. Make summer reading fun, positive, and family oriented. We have a young adult book section. Getting teens in the library is a challenge for us. They're just, I think where we're located and where they live, it's not convenient, but we're working on that. But our young adult section, we want to assess what books are there and then ask teens what they would like to see in there and work on getting a collection that is interesting to teens. We want to offer engaging family programs and appealing adult programs. We have found that our library does really well with programs for families. And of course, kids and adults too, but families are a lot of fun because you have everyone there. And then we really work on this all the time, becoming proficient on readers advisory for members that come in and they're like, oh, I'm not sure what I want to read. And we're good at helping our members find books, and we take a lot of pride in that. And then, of course, we want to continue our great customer service. So we appreciate all the support we get from our sister libraries, from our admin team, from the board, and from the Library Foundation and the Friends, and from our members. We really appreciate everybody that contributes to our library, and just want to say thank you to all of you, and thanks for being.
Okay, or do you have questions or comments? Anybody want to say anything? Okay, Jean?
Oh, it's fun, Jill, to hear your report. Been on board a while, and glad to hear things that you had adapted and what you wanted to. I had to contain myself not to chirp up when you talked about weeding. And of course, when you're a landscape person, you're doing the reading. But it isn't just weeding for plants. The whole process of what a library does is weed. And I remember this fun statistic one time that as a board member, I'm always proud, as I tell people, is if everybody turned their book in, we wouldn't have enough shelf space. The whole goal is get them out there. And I know another goal we as a board asked you and all our branch managers to do, and that was connect with the community. Don't be in isolation. That sounds like you're doing that well. And for me, at least as a board member, it's fun to brag about, yep, we're out there doing things from the parades to the joining the chambers of commerce so that we can hear from the communities and you can customize it. I think that's an important part of what our board does is customize it. Athol has a flavor to it. You have patrons and members that want certain, not only programs, but contents to the library. And we should be doing that. That's why long ago, Katie and I from the board many years ago, in fact, wasn't the last century, Katie, that we started on the board, was to say, we don't want to just have one library. We want to have branches, and those branches need to leaf out in new ways, so we have a gardener to help us. So thanks for your good service.
Wait, I have a question, Jill. Are you still doing, I love the grab and go kits, particularly for adults. Are you still doing grab and go kits? I'm not quite certain, or has that gone way down?
We're not doing grab and goes any longer. We're starting, like I said, to have the in-person programs.
So, okay, so, right, and I know the grab and go kits are time consuming to put together.
They can be, and yeah. We have to focus on our in-person programs now to get people in there.
That's a good idea. All right, Madam Chair. Oh, I'm sorry, we can't go yet.
But it's wonderful to see the joy in your presentation, and you obviously really love your job, and that's so fun to see. You said 7 years here, or 7 years total, because you also mentioned Post Falls? 7 years here. How long in Post Falls?
About 5.
Oh, okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
She also landscaped my backyard, just so you know that. It's beautiful.
We designed the yard and had a company build it, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
Thanks. Okay. Now, I wanted to say that we have library tour here, so we're going to go across the street and visit the Athol library. We're going to do that around 4. They're having a program that in the middle of the library, although.
It's not. They moved into the meeting room.
They moved into the meeting room? Okay. And it already is 3:30. Probably this is a good time. We could just walk over. Should we take a break and walk?
What's the weather like outside? It's raining so hard before. Is it raining outside? I want to try my.
But, okay, let's take a break now, since it's already 3:30. A public comment took a bit, and we'll go over and we'll take a tour of the library, and is that good, Jill? Will that work for you now? Okay.
Can you demonstrate a shelf talker when we get over there? Would you set up a shelf talker? Would you give us a demonstration of that? You spoke of shelf talker.
And also, you guys got new lighting. I want to know what that was in our. I also wanted to say that, just in terms of, making our board meetings a little more efficient, when we start something like our consent agenda, which is an action item, pause for a minute if somebody would like to make a motion, and then, we can go ahead with that, if only makes a motion, and then start discussion, and then, people can make a motion when it comes their turn to speak. So, consent agenda. If there's no motion, then Michelle, anything you want to say on it?
The minutes of the regular, yes, that was close enough. All right, the minutes of the last meeting, you see on page 4. About halfway down the paragraph there in the middle, the line starts with the word misinformation. I can guarantee you that I did not use the word misinformation. I said miseducation. Miseducation, I was defining it as education that is meant to harm.
Okay. Did you hear that? Sounds good. Anything else?
Actually, I'm not sure that it should be corrected in the minutes, but on page 3, where under response to public comments, the numbers for the number of signatures that were on the petitions and sent letters. So, I mean, I think those are the numbers that she gave at the time, but those are, I asked her later and she said those were not the correct numbers, so I don't know technically if that gets corrected in the minutes or not.
Since it's what she reported at the time.
Okay.
Anything else?
But for the record, do we have them in this month?
Amy was going to send those numbers to us, is that correct?
And I did email the numbers, so we can either, in basically this month's minutes, we can put the actual number.
Okay, sounds good.
Are you finished, Rochelle?
Yes.
Okay, no, I didn't want to take your time. Let's see, I have just a couple changes, very minor, on page 4, the long paragraph, 4 or 5 lines down. There's a statement by Meyer, let's see, no, there's just an extra it. Okay, so the line that starts with our books in the library that she does not like, but is not going to oppose someone else reading it. But it is, what, I think there's an extra, I think that it needs to come out.
But is not going to oppose someone.
And then on page 5, just at the very bottom, the last line of the page, regarding the attendance at the conference and that she will be representing the library. There's a BE should go in there.
You take one on page 5
There's, no, I don't have another one on page 5. At the top of, but on the top of page 6, there are some other property tax bills. I think it would be singular, right? There's some property tax bills. And then this comment about contacting legislators in objection of House Bill 666, I would take out would be, is it just, anyway, in objection of, I think there shouldn't be a B there. Those are the only changes that I have.
Anything else on it? Okay. Michelle? Do you have anything? Nope.
Okay, on the first page, and I think that we changed this before you said it, so on page 1, speakers must, under public comment, speakers must state name and address and speak for blah, blah. Did you say address or did you change it to home library?
I think I asked, I started asking for community library for a couple of times, but so I'm not, but that's what the public comment was at that time. It was still that. So I mean, that's what it was said on the agenda.
Okay. On page 5, the top paragraph, the end of the first line where it says starts, the consultants recommended one large focus group so that people hear from about experiences. Okay. See, that's what's wrong.
So we just need to take out the from?
Yes, unless it was totally different, Here, well, I don't know, unless it's so that people hear from people's experiences or something. I'm not sure which way it was, but take out from or about. And then one last one, again, the very end of page 5. Blank would like to have us report back on her attendance at the conference and noted that, or said that, she will be representing the library. And that might be fine how it is, just that it didn't rewrite to me.
Anything else on any of the presentation? Do you have anything else in this? Nope. All right, then if there's anything else on the agenda, I would certainly entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I move that we accept the consent agenda with changes.
Okay, it's been moved to accept the consent agenda with changes. Is there any other discussion starting with Michelle? Anybody have anything? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The next item on the agenda is the CLN March 20. I remember when we got this name, and they did not want us to say CLN. The CLN March 2022 financial statements. And this is also an action item.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the CLN financial report.
Okay, how about this? It's been moved to approve the community library network financial statements for March 2022. Okay, you guys have heard that motion. How about discussion? Michelle, do you have anything? Anything? All right. So we have more income because of our check from January, so that should give us, a cushion until July, so we can get our next great big check in July. That was the only thing that I was noticing. Oh, we've got a lot of money. That sounds good. Oh, yeah, we have to save it. All right, I think everything else is good. And any comments, from you on the financial report?
No, just to note that we are halfway through the year, so, we are halfway through the year, so just note that, that's not gonna be that we'll be 50% on everything, but just to note that we are halfway through, so it's a nice marker to kind of see how it's doing.
Did we just start yesterday? All right, then, but it's been moved, anybody, okay, I don't see any more comments. It's been moved to accept the community library financial statements for March of 2022. All those in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, can I go back to the consent agenda? I want to have this in my notes. I'd like to go back to the consent agenda for the community library reports. It was helpful for me to hear from all the staff about their attendance at the conference. And I just want to highlight that it's very helpful. And I wonder, at some point, can you teach us more about the laundromat program? Which doesn't have to be now, but it was an interesting topic. Thank you. Done.
Okay, the next item on the agenda then is circulation statistics. And Amy, did you want to talk about them at all?
Not much to report, though I will say March was much busier than February, so we were up quite a bit in almost every area over February, and we're finally, when you look at year-to-date CERT compared to year-to-date last year, just in general, we're quite a bit up over March of 21. So, busy, which is good.
But it's interesting that ebooks and Freegal and that stuff is down.
Well, people are coming back in person, and they want their physical books. I don't know. I just think it kind of comes a little bit with the busyness in person, then some of the digital drops off, because we saw the big bump in digital when we were mainly doing curbside in 2020 and parts of 2021, and so I think sometimes there's correlation. So I'm not necessarily surprised that that's happening.
No, I'm not. I guess I am, because that means that perhaps people are picking up a physical book when, remember when ebooks started and we were certain that we would, we turned out a postage-sized building and we need a house of books. So it's interesting to me,
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I blame it on the lack of room here. But I did have a question on the income statement.
Okay, go ahead.
On the very last page, the
Amount to, oh gosh, this is the balance sheet, on the balance sheet, yeah, balance sheet. Amount to provide for long-term debt and accrued annual levy, sorry. I believe those should be the exact same number. And it just changed, but the change part of the amount is different. And I was on this line, but it is.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So the amount to provide for long-term debt and then the accrued annual leave are both numbers that the auditor calculates. She calculates in whole numbers, and so when she gives me an adjustment, it's in a whole number. I keep track of it by the penny. So it's off a few cents. If you want, I can work with her to tell me what the exact number is. I'm more reliant on my exact number.
Right, she's the one that rounds, you said,
She rounds to the nearest dollar.
So then, but then why is there any change on hers?
These are my numbers. So when she gives me an adjustment, she gives me the adjustment in whole dollars. But I don't adjust my pennies.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You were asking why they're different. Yeah, because they're supposed to be like kind of adverse to each other, right? And they're like, because Janelle, I did, is actually read this wonderful paper. Instead of like just coming in with a question, I'm like, oh, I can actually look it up. And it says, that they should be the same number, and then it's the same number, so. Oh, and now you shake us all reading it more carefully.
The first section is very helpful, explaining what everything is. And all the issues.
Okay, back on circulation statistics, I think we're done, unless anybody had a comment on it, down the way, all right, no questions. All right, then we have here, this was Virginia's request response to a comment, and we put it on the, what were your thoughts on this, Virginia?
Sure, it came up when we were reviewing the public comment policy and there were proposed changes to the public comment policy, which forced me to read the public comment policy in detail. And the public comment policy says right in it that public comment will be addressed at the next regularly scheduled board meeting, but yet we're never able to address it if it's never on the agenda. So that's why I requested that it go on the agenda. And at the time that it came up, one of my specific concerns was the fact that we had been given a petition from the public, and I felt like that merited a response in and of itself. So anyway, I think if we are following our public comment policy, then this opportunity on the agenda is not specifically to address the public comment that we heard today. Apparently it's what we heard last time.
That's what, okay, so this will be to address any issues from last month, particularly if there were ones that we wanted to, something that came up that we wanted to consider for an agenda item or something like that. So from last month's public comment, have anything arisen that should be an agenda item in particular, I guess? Okay, well, let's start with Rochelle.
Yes, so it should be entered into the record what the exact number of signatures were in petitions. Yep. So, and that number was what again?
I emailed it, so I don't have it in front of us, but it was 300. I apologize because I emailed that out to the whole board, so I will make sure in this part of the minutes that we have the actual number.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I had a couple of things, and one of which is not in regards to public comment of today, but it does relate to Rochelle's comment earlier about whether or not we're infringing speech. when we correct misinformation, and actually the board chair is infringing our speech, because we're not allowed to respond. You're telling us we can only respond to misinformation. So there is absolutely, just so that I'm clear, we are not in any way, shape, or form infringing on the right of the public to come in front of us and say whatever it is they want to say. You're just telling us we don't get to engage in a conversation with them. So if anyone's speech is infringed, it's on this side of the room. The other thing I want to say is, last month I said something that I would like to walk back at this meeting, and I believe I said something to the effect that I did not believe that there was an agenda that's being pushed on kids. I agree with those of you that are coming to tell us that there is an agenda on the national level. I agree with you. I hear you. And I don't dispute that on a national level. So what it should have said last month is that I don't believe that there is such an agenda in this library system. But to the extent that publishers have increased the volume of certain books or whatnot, I'm not disputing what the public is telling us in that regard. And then lastly, what I would like to say to the public in response to their comments to us is in regards to these requests for reconsideration of materials, for this board member, it would be incredibly helpful if, for part of the appeal process, the material selection policy itself is focused on, and I did hear that today. I don't know that I heard that last month, but I just wanted to provide that feedback to the public, because we are constrained by existing policy, and that is what governs this board, and that is all we can take action on. Thank you.
Michelle, do you have anything to say? Vanessa? Well, I'd like to say I wish the camera was still here, because that was a great speech. And it's 100% true. I did just send an email to you, you probably didn't get it, I sent it this morning, I figured you would get it. But the policy is, we're supposed to revisit every 3 years. And last time it was visited was 2018. The policy itself says will be reviewed and revised every 3 years or updated as necessary, approved by the Community Library Board of Trustees. So it's time to relook at this. And no, there's not a lot of stuff in our library that is really bad right now, but it's coming. And if it's nationwide and there's places, pockets that don't have it, that's who they focus on. And I know we're not supposed to do personal speeches, so I will end it there. Okay, Judy?
Following up on that, Vanessa, do we need to put on the agenda, is that the best way then to bring that policy back up for us?
I sent an email asking to put it on the agenda for this.
But I think as a board, then we need to agree to that, commit the time it's going to take, which sounds like that's the time we wanted to do. So I would request, not only by email, but a public meeting, that we put that on the agenda. I'm not sure if it's next month, but it shouldn't fall off the agenda in the process.
It's well noted. I saw it, but didn't have time to respond to it. And request for the agenda will be added, and that is the time. Yeah. Okay. Any more comments? And we need to go around again. And Lindsay's keeping time, and
Yeah, 3 minutes.
What?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
3 minutes to go around again. Thank you.
Okay, so in regards to the public comment about the new ALA president being self-avowed Marxist.
Is this, can we hold this one, can you write that down and hold it, we're commenting on last one. Is that, no, okay. All righty, then we're done with this and ready to move on to the next one. So the next item on the agenda is the director's report.
Okay, and I'll just keep this quick since I know we have a full agenda and there's lots. So I had a little bit slightly longer director's report this time. We are looking forward to our staff day, which will be May 13th. I know this will be the first one that I will have participated in, as well as a couple of our new board members. And to clarify there, you are invited. I know you may have other obligations, but did want to say that our board members certainly are invited. I'll be sending you the agenda. Typically the board, if they're able to, it's nice to have you there for lunch and then whatever other portion of the day that meets and fits your schedule. So typically this is a day where staff can be together. We have a keynote speaker, we do staff awards, longevity awards, service awards, and then we have some breakout training sessions on a variety of different continuing development. So I think the last one was February of 2021, and that was kind of a hybrid virtual. And then prior to that, it's probably been a good while. So definitely prior to March of 2020, you know, when this staff has been all together. So we're really excited and looking forward to that. And Lindsay and a group of staff have worked hard to coordinate that. So that will be wonderful. And then otherwise, I'll be doing, I mentioned a few facility things in the director's report, but there's a later agenda item on facility updates, so I'll answer any questions or talk about that when we get to facility updates. But otherwise, I will cede my time and choose the rest of the agenda unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah, more notation, but I'd like to clarify about all staff day to our new board members. We have typically, depending upon what the program is, the board is always welcome to attend, but it's very, you know, it's staff. We are encouraged to come at lunch and have lunch, and then we are asked to get up. We all have an opportunity to get up and say something to staff. Nobody's required to attend. It's a good place for a kind of a meet and greet staff. So, anything you want to add, Michelle? Regina?
Just to clarify, thank you. Then it should be listed on our calendar of events, which I guess by May won't matter anyway. March, okay, so on April, the calendar should show that. This is April, okay, all month. So this is going to occur 13th before the board meeting on 19th. And you'll send us more information about it?
Yes, we just had the agenda. It was finalized after the board packet was mailed out, so I will go ahead and forward an email with the full agenda.
And Katie, I think you're right. It's important, us old timers that have enjoyed these over the years. To highlight to the new board members, especially if your first chance, really, just to come and hang out a bit. Usually lunch is a good way to visit and move around. And for me, it's a chance to say thank you to the staff that's working, because I can't remember any of the names anymore. And it's the only time, I guess, for like 90 people potentially together. It really strikes you as to how much is going on. And I would see if you can fit on your calendar.
How many staff members do we have?
We have 103, but we have a few vacant positions, and then we do have many part-time staff, some of them have other jobs or are attending school. So I think we, average around 90. So.
Okay. What Judy was asking in terms of dates is that it's helpful for board members to have as many dates on the calendar as possible. I was looking at that same thing, but I like that. All right. All right. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is financial management guidelines. This is an action item. And our last meeting, we went over them and asked the staff to make the changes which were made. And it was also requested that we look at